All right. So I just want to start today by seeing if you have any specific questions about this job that you want to ask.
I'll start it off. This is Daryl. You can't see me. I don't know how to change that. It's probably not real important. So I'm a current City of Portland employee,
Mhm.
Portland firefighter. Is that an advantage at all being a current employee?
Not necessarily. I mean, there is some advantage. I mean, there's always some advantage. You know the city a little bit, but that's not what we're, in order to get on the eligible list, what we're going to do is we're going to look for minimum qualifications. And then the hiring manager is going to look for the most qualified out of that out of that group to actually move forward to the interview process. Um, if you know the city and you know the city systems, that is a plus always. And we at the city encourage everyone to apply, and we try to give everyone an equal chance. We believe in promotions, and we also believe in getting people from the outside. Did that help?
How many, how many positions are you looking to fill?
Currently, this current position is one, but this is will it be an ongoing list? So the people that apply and make it onto the eligible list, we can use this list for up to 3 years.
Okay.
Hopefully that answers at least a few of the questions.
So I had a question about one of the minimum qualification requirements. I've applied for a number of positions with the city. I've made the eligible list every time
Mhm.
because I pay very close attention. And you've been very, very good, Traylon, about um, making it clear what the definitions of these words are. So my concern is experience repairing irrigation systems.
Mhm.
I've worked on golf courses before.
Mhm.
I've got a degree in landscape design, but I don't have much experience with irrigation systems. But otherwise, I'm well qualified for the position. I do have some knowledge of
Mhm.
what it takes to maintain a golf course. I've got plenty of experience in what it takes to maintain a golf course, but I just don't have that. Like, do you know anything about how important that qualification requirement is going to be?
Okay. So when it says experience, it means you've done it. It doesn't, however, experience means any amount of experience, right? So if you have
Okay.
done any maintaining and repairing irrigation, I would encourage you to apply and explain that in detail. Um, that would be my best advice.
Okay.
One of the words as a recruiter, my job is to be here to help you.
Hmm.
So here's what I would recommend that you do refrain from saying, I have very little experience. That's just, right? That's just going to immediately, the hiring manager is going to be like, they just admitted they don't have much experience. Somebody else is more qualified.
Hmm.
So make sure that instead of saying that, just explain the experience that you do have.
Okay.
Okay. Don't eliminate yourself. Okay.
Yeah.
That is my best advice.
Okay.
Dave, do you have any questions before I just go on to a very short how to apply?
Yeah, I think this position is I want to say a generalist position of all aspects of golf course management, um, course setup, irrigation, um, teamwork. I already have a spray license, and that's one of the qualifications.
Good.
Um, I do have experience on the golf course, but it's been several years, maybe even a decade or so since I've actually worked on a golf course. I was on the
Okay.
professional side of the golf in the pro shops, but I still play golf to this day, but it's been a while since I've been on a mower. So
So any experience counts. It doesn't matter how long ago it was.
okay.
So I'm going to say again, my best advice is to do not say my experience is 20 years old. Just say this is my experience and explain it, because what you're doing right now is when you're applying for a job, you're selling your best self. Honestly, and then what we do is we're going to reference your resume, and we're going to reference your answers to the supplemental questions for the minimum qualifications, put those two together. So we would be able to look back and see that where that was. So that is honest. Just like I said, just sell yourself in that paragraph.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do now, if you're okay with that, is I am going to share my screen. This always takes me a minute. Okay. Is everyone seeing my screen right now? Yep. Okay. Before we go into the actual job announcement, I just want to highlight this button here that says show more. Be sure that you use all the applicant resources that we have, how to apply videos, or how to apply workshops. I'm going to talk to you just for a few minutes. Our how to apply workshops are an hour and a half long, and we'll cover everything all the way up to interview. So I would encourage you to use those tools. We have our City of Portland core values here. We have a little bit about recruitment and our hiring practices, total compensation and benefits, how to get veterans preference. If you are a veteran, thank you for your service. And this will detail exactly how to get your preference. And also if you need any accommodations at all. So those are really important, and some people miss them. So down here we are at Greenskeeper 1. So I'm going to talk about a few little things. The first thing I'm going to talk about is the closing date. This actually closes on February 3rd. If for some reason you are that night owl who is going to try to apply and submit their application right at 11:59, and unfortunately you receive a message back and it says, I'm sorry you missed the deadline, it's closed. Please don't worry. What you're going to do is, before you do that, if you know that's who you are, you're actually going to copy down my email address and you're going to email me before 12:30 a.m. I promise I'm going to be asleep. But the next morning, I'm going to reach out to you and make sure that you have the ability to apply. Because we don't control that server clock, and computer clocks can vary by a few minutes. We always give that 30-minute grace period. You just have to reach out to me, and then we'll coordinate. The next thing I want to talk about, you might notice that there are 2 different schedules with this particular position. It makes sense, right? Because of the seasons. That is something I like to point out. The next thing is, these are the minimum qualifications for the position. Now up here under questions, what you'll notice is those correspond directly with the questions that we ask. The first thing we ask is, do you have this minimum qualification? If you answer no, that you're not minimally qualified, you're not going to move forward. So we just want to make sure that you understand that. So if you believe that you're qualified and you can do the job, you want to mark yes. Then what you're going to do is write a paragraph or 2 about how you meet that minimum qualification. So what I'm going to suggest that you do is that you copy and paste the 5 minimum qualifications into a Word document of your choice. Then write a paragraph or 2 about how you meet that minimum qualifications. The words experience and ability mean 2 different things. Experience means you've actually done that thing, but it doesn't mean that it's necessarily paid experience. So it can be paid, it can be volunteer experience, it can be like maybe if you were in a class that you learned some of those things and you actually did a project around it. Ability is what we would call a transferable skill. So something that you've done in the past is going to give you the ability to do that in the future. So those are the 2 highlighted words there. So what I would encourage you to do is you go through, and I'm going to use the first one right now as my little example. It says experience operating and performing maintenance of golf equipment, including but not limited to greens, mowers, fairway mowers, and trim mowers. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to completely answer that question. You're going to want to talk about operating and performing maintenance, not just operating. You'll definitely want to include the maintenance portion. And if you have experience, it says including but not limited to. So you can expand on that. You can include the greens mower, the fairway mowers, and the trim mowers, and any other equipment that you know about. So make sure that you answer the questions completely. People ask me this all the time. What is the perfect amount of information to put into your supplemental questions? Well, this is my answer. Answer it concisely and completely. So what I don't want to see happen is that you left something on the table that you really did have more experience, but you forgot to put it in there. Because we're going to use these responses twice. The first time to determine if you meet the minimum qualifications. But the second time it's going to be used to choose who is most qualified to come in for an interview. So you definitely want to go, if you can go above and beyond and show that you're more qualified, that is a plus. Once you've created those paragraphs, I would encourage you to go back up here into the what you'll get to do and the position summary, read through those. Try to decide if you've done any of those things. If you have, did you include those in your responses and on your resume? Once that is completed, I would encourage you to find somebody that you can get critical feedback from, somebody that you know that can actually say, hey, remember when you did this, or things like that. That's always a plus. If for any reason you don't have a person that can offer that feedback, we all know AI exists. We want to make sure that we explain thoroughly that AI is a tool. If you use it as a cheat to respond to or apply to this position, there is a very good chance that you're not going to move forward. Believe it or not, we are getting applications today that are the exact same response from multiple people. Those are not going to move forward because there's a very good chance those aren't, they're not genuine. They're either AI applying or a variety of things. So use it as a tool. You've written your responses. Take the question and the response and say, did I answer this question thoroughly? Check for punctuation. Make this more concise if you happen to be a very wordy person. All of those are ways that we can use AI as a tool, but we need to start with your work, and then you can just use this as an editing tool. Does anybody have any questions around AI? Okay.
I don't use AI. I just use what I want to say and how I want to say it.
Yep. And that is perfectly okay. We just need to acknowledge to everyone that we recognize it's being used, and it could eliminate you if you're using it inappropriately.
I've already applied, did it yesterday.
Oh, excellent.
I thought it was important to do it timely. Now, after listening to you just for a few minutes, I know I could do better. So what should I do?
You should go in, and if you decide that you want to do better, you can apply again. I, as the recruiter, am only going to move forward your most recent application.
Oh, okay. Very good.
So you absolutely can go in and reapply after you get some advice and you're like, oh, because your application is saved in your profile.
Okay.
So you can go in and you can't update your answers. You actually have to reapply. However, what you can do, and this is the reason we encourage you to do your questions onto a Word document and save them, is because that way you can go in and edit them later if you suddenly realize that you left something out. It's a lot easier to reapply.
Okay. Okay.
Let's see. Another thing that I do want to touch on really quickly is we say that we are going to close on the 3rd. If for whatever reason we are not able to close that day and we need to extend it, you'll get an email. However, please don't worry about that. That doesn't mean that there's no qualified candidates. That's not the reason we're extending. We would be extending because the hiring manager has an emergency. These things happen. The hiring manager is sick. All of these things, instead of just making you wait, we will actually we'll let you know, and we will allow more people to apply. So it's just one of the things that we do. If for whatever reason, people aren't available to review your applications in a timely manner. So please don't worry about that. I get lots of emails that say, I'm a little concerned, and it doesn't reflect on the applications that are already turned in. So now I just kind of want to open the floor, and I'm going to leave this sharing up just in case you have other questions about the actual application process, so that I can show you maybe where it's located on the job announcement.
I have a question, not really a question, but can we go back to the questions that's on the application?
Mhm.
And the way the question is put out, like you want a timeline of the question, like how the question is worded. It sounds like you want it of when, where, and what you did, right?
Yes. So when we say provide detailed examples, what we're saying is tell us about your experience operating and performing maintenance. Don't just say, yes, I have experience operating and performing maintenance of golf equipment. Like, just don't just repeat the question.
Right.
Actually tell us about your experience. Maybe the role that you served in. Were you a volunteer at that time? Did you do this professionally? Where did you get this experience? How many years you do it is always fine. I've seen some people write their paragraph and that at the bottom they'll say 3 years or something like that. So all of that is the way to do it. We encourage people to use a paragraph form because basically your resume has everything bulleted out. And then this is where you can expand on it. So in your resume, you should show that you have experience doing all these things, and then provide us more information in the supplemental question.
Okay. And then the follow-up question would be the resume. So it's, again, I'm not trying to downplay myself, but it's been a while. So on my resume, what I'm asking is I should have at least 2 or 3 different types of resumes: resume for the job, resume of my current job or past jobs. But this particular resume is very current. And this job that I'm experienced in for this job, it's been a long, long time. So that's not necessarily on the resume because I only go back 4 to 5 jobs, where this is like plus 20 years ago.
So I would encourage you to revise your resume. What I would encourage you to do is put at the very top, put relevant experience. Go ahead and put the dates on there and all of the things, but put that front and center at the very top. This is what we teach in our How to Apply class, and I feel really strongly about that. Your resume can be as long as it needs to be. You should have as much information on your resume. If it's 4 pages long, that's fine. This is a government resume, and so that is absolutely acceptable. But we will review all of your material. But humans, we don't use computers to review our applications. There are actual people doing it. So what I would encourage you to do is bring everything that you want the hiring manager to focus on or the reviewers to focus on, bring it up to the top, color it relevant experience. Underneath that, say just experience, more experience. And that way, what you're doing is you're bringing the focus up to the top, and you're actually making sure that a hiring manager doesn't miss it somewhere buried down below. And there was a study once done, and I think our hiring managers are better than this, but this is a true study that was done by Harvard University that says that hiring managers generally review the first 3/4 of the first page of your resume.
Yeah. I've been told like everyone should have their resume on 1 page.
Not for the government, not for city, not for state, and not for federal governments.
Because then it's like rambling, right?
No, you should have your resume be as long as it needs to be. It doesn't matter if it rambles. You should have all of your experience and everything on there. Now, I'm not saying that if you're like me, I actually, when I applied to the city, my resume is 2 pages long. I only put on my relevant experience because my relevant experience goes back quite a ways. I don't put my first job when I worked at a nursing home. I don't do that. I was 14 years old. It's not relevant to me being a recruiter. So you can leave off things that aren't relevant, but you definitely want to put in anything that could be considered relevant.
Okay.
And also put in things that so that the hiring man, this is what I always say. What you want to do with your resume and your responses is what you're doing is you want that hiring manager to want to meet you. Because the ability to meet you is an interview. And that's what you're looking for. You're really trying to attract this hiring manager's attention. So they want to meet you and ask you more questions.
So do I have to reapply to put a different resume in?
I would encourage it. You don't have to. Obviously, you don't have to do anything, but I would encourage you to.
Okay, because I like the answers I gave on the questions,
Mhm.
but I want to put in another resume, I guess.
Yeah. And if you yeah, and reapplying is fairly easy. Like I said, you can copy your responses out of your application onto a Word document. And like I said, I would encourage you to keep a file of every job that you apply for in the city. That way you can reuse them if need as needed.
Yeah. I've done a lot of different jobs or applied for different jobs, so not necessarily the questions are the same, but I hear what you're saying.
Yeah. We just try to make it as easy for you as possible.
Thank you.
Mhm. Do you have any other questions?
When would this position start?
That is always a great question. Let's look and see what they shared with us. So if they did interviews in early March, it could be end of March. When I say could be, the bureaus have up to 90 days to use an eligible list to make a hire. That's 3 months from the day that I send out the email that says you're qualified and you've been placed on an eligible list. They have 90 days from then to make a hire from that request. And then, like I said, this list can be used for up to 3 years.
Okay. Do you know, I'm not sure if you would know this, what models of green mowers and fairway mowers does Eastmoreland use? And would they be the same as, Rose City and Red Tail and Heron Lakes and such?
I actually do not know the answer to that question. However, if you send me an email, like I said, my email address is in the middle of the job announcement. I'll reach out to John and find out for you.
Can I call her directly to the
Call the hiring manager?
No, just call Eastmoreland, call Red Tail, etc.
You could.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I would discourage you from reaching out to the hiring manager because the hiring manager, for equity reasons, he would just direct you right back to me.
Well, no, I wouldn't call them.
Yeah.
I would call directly to the golf course. I might walk back to the shop, etc.
Yep.
As a current city employee, would anything be any longevity or accrued leaves be transferable, or?
I believe so. But
What's that?
I'm not 100% sure on that. I am going from one position to another position. I mean, you're a current employee.
Yes.
So yeah, there would be, I think, yes, it would transfer over. But I think you would be in a different union. So I'm not exactly sure how all of that would
Right.
fall in line.
Right. It would be in a different union.
Yeah.
Okay. You do, well, no. No question there.
So hypothetical, if you get an interview and you don't get the job.
Mhm.
I've had several interviews and I've always tried to get feedback.
Mhm.
How is that appropriate? And how is that appropriate to ask for feedback? And who do I ask?
So here at the city, our recruiter, me, I can offer you advice all the way up to when you're eligible, what we call the eligible list. So if you don't make the eligible list, the people review it and they say, I'm sorry, you don't meet the minimum qualifications. Then you email me and I will tell you which minimum qualification you didn't meet. And I can offer you feedback about your application. So that's me. If once you actually go to an interview, then you're going to respond to the Bureau and ask the Bureau for feedback.
Because I think that's kind of important.
Mhm.
And it shows your ambition. And then it might be off topic, but I have a question. Is there a job fair coming up with the city? I heard through the tea leaves that there's a job fair coming up. I used to work for Nature City East with Tanya Williamson, and she mentioned a job fair coming up.
I haven't heard about a job fair coming up. I've heard of one for high school students coming up. That one's in March.
Oh, like a career day?
Right, like a career day. I have heard that they are thinking about potentially doing like a job fair. But I haven't heard anything about finalized plans.
Okay. And do you have a webinar for interviews?
So in our How to Apply class, we do talk about interviews and interview questions. I'm here right now, and there's only 3 of you, so I can talk about interviews right now if you want me to.
Because I feel like every interview I'm on, I feel great. That was a good interview.
Mhm.
But for some reason, I mean, I'm new to the area. I'm from California. I just moved here, been here for almost 3 years now. I've applied at every city within the last 20 miles surrounding here. I've had an interview with all the cities. And for some reason, they won't. I don't know if it's my age. I'm from California. I'm trying to find excuses. So I don't know what's going on.
Well, here at the city, I am going to be 60 in June. I don't mind people knowing that. And I was hired, I'm coming up on my 3rd anniversary. So with the city of Portland, I can very much vouch for the fact that age is not going to be taken into consideration. I 100% can vouch for that because it happened with me. But about interviews, this is my best advice. I struggle on interviews, so I went to a speech coach. And I talked with them and I was like, I really struggle with these interviews. And this was the advice that I learned, and I have found that it's been very effective. Even before you know if you are selected for an interview, start thinking about the stories about yourself that make you a good employee. Think about maybe it's that you're very detail oriented and when all the things about you that make you a great fit for jobs. Then you start writing those down on a 3x5 card, very much similar to the way we said it talked about the supplemental questions, but you don't know what the questions are going to be, right? What I want you to do is focus on who you are and what you want that hiring manager to know about you. Have between 5 and 10 of those prepared. Then, when the questions are emailed to you at the city, we email them out in advance. Some are, like 24 hours in advance. Everybody has a different way of doing them. Sometimes it's an hour in advance. Every once in a while, there'll be a question that they won't share. They want to see how you think on your feet. All of that's good. But when you get your questions, what you're going to do is you're going to plug those questions into each one of your responses. It sounds completely backwards. When I was encouraged to do this, I thought that was kind of a backwards way to work. It is amazing how easy it is to plug who you are into those responses. Then when you are at, what you're going to, because you're practicing those, right? You've got your 3x5 cards when you're going on a run or you're in the car, or you're on the bus, on the max, whatever those times are, start practicing those responses and telling your story. Then when you actually get into the interview, it's going to be really easy for you to just tell your story and you're not going to leave things on the table. Sometimes, unfortunately, what we do is in interviews is we either ramble and it is hard to be concise, but practice. Actually sit down and practice if you struggle with interviews. And I found that that has been really effective for me.
So when I answer the questions, I answer with what I've done,
Mm-hmm.
and I try to make it the interview as a whole a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And again, every interview I've had, in my opinion, has been so great, and it comes to a conversation. But I haven't gotten that full-time job. I get the seasonal work, but not the full-time work.
Yeah,
and all
yeah.
the seasonal work is entry level.
Landing a job right now, I'm not going to lie, the job market is tight right now. For a while, we really had an employee market where people were, getting landing jobs a lot. Now we have a lot more people applying to those jobs, and so you're competing against a lot more people. It's much more competitive out there. All I can say is number one, keep trying. Number two, after you're done with if you don't make it this time, Dave, reach out to me. You and I will have a one-on-one conversation. We will go through everything one-on-one. I am happy to do that. Just to help you find ways to find the job that is the perfect fit for you.
Okay, because I'm here to stay. I'm here in this area to stay,
Mm-hmm.
and I try to make that loud and clear that I want to be here and I want to work, but I don't know what it is. I'm missing something that I don't know.
And all I can do is help you put your best foot forward. I'm going to be honest. Every recruiter that works for the city of Portland, that is our goal. Our candidates are incredibly valuable to us, and we want your experience to be, as good as possible. Obviously, we don't make the decisions, right? All we can do is help you maybe refine things just a little bit, maybe think about new ways to answer questions, but we will help you do that.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
This has been very helpful, Traylon. I'm just kind of curious because I was unemployed for quite some time. Um, and I'm curious, does like current employment versus like periods of unemployment, does that have a negative impact on the recruitment process at all?
No, we're going to look at the minimum qualifications and when your experience and all of those things. Like I said, once again, you are we get being minimally qualified is the first step, then being most qualified, then landing the interview. Each of those steps is really important in there. You do not need to, on your resume, identify why you were unemployed. If you would like to, that's fine. You're welcome to, but make it very, very brief. For example, if you were unemployed for 2 years due to the COVID pandemic, then you could just say, job was eliminated due to COVID. Um, all of that, but make it simple, make it brief. To
Yeah,
be
I
to
don't
be
I
honest,
don't
you don't owe anybody an explanation for that.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious if it does have a negative impact just because like I've made the minimum qualification, like I've made the eligible list for every single one of the 11 positions that I've applied for with the city. I knew even with my first application that it's a very competitive process.
Mhm.
Um, and which is why I just keep plugging away and applying for anything that I qualify for.
Mhm.
And I do my best to revise my approach for example, I recently applied for the tree inspector position that closed a couple days ago. And watching that Zoom meeting, I took your advice of revamping my resume so that all of my relevant experience is on page one. All the job relevant experience, page one, bam, there we go. And then I have additional experience below that. Um, and I've gotten feedback from a friend who's also applying for jobs. I recently got a job with the Postal Service, which my goal was government job. Um, I want to be doing something with my degree. So I'm applying for any position with the city that involves horticulture. But it is pretty competitive.
Very.
I mean, go figure. People want to work outside in this wonderful green space we have here. Um, but getting back to the question I had initially about maintenance, like the maintenance and repair. So I have interacted with irrigation systems. And you mentioned just any experience whatsoever is any experience that I list could put me on that eligible list, you're saying?
It could. I can't guarantee anything because the subject matter experts are going to read these and they're going to determine who is passing minimum qualifications. My job is to give you the best, is to give you advice for, to put your best foot forward. I don't want you to self-eliminate, but at the
Mhm.
same time, if you're telling me you don't have a lot of experience, then if we have people who have lots of that irrigation, experience, you might not get selected for an interview,
Yeah. And
right?
like I do have a pesticide, I held a pesticide applicator's license in the state of Illinois. It was valid for 3 years. I haven't worked in the industry in a while. So that certification, that license lapsed.
Yeah.
However, I still have all the training materials and I have reviewed them. In order to apply for different positions. Like it was very helpful in applying for the wastewater operator trainee position. A lot of the math is the same. And it does have to do with like flow rates and stuff. So would you encourage me to kind of put that lateral like experience, list that under the irrigation? Because it's not specifically like Rainbird golf course irrigation systems, um, but it is directly related. Like learning about flow rates, learning about like arcs. It's simple math. Like, should I include that experience in there, even though it's not directly like repairing irrigation systems?
I would be cautious and answer just about irrigation systems.
Okay,
You can say that you have some transferable skills and include that, but it should
keep that
pertain
minimal.
directly to the question.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
sure. If you don't have any other questions, I'd love to give you 20 minutes of your afternoon back. Um, again, my name is Troy Lynn. My email address is right in the middle of the job announcements. If you're applying for this job, or maybe you're applying for other jobs and you need advice or you need help, please feel free to reach out to me. If I can't help you personally, because I am the one who is actually reviewing applications, and will hand you off to another senior recruiter and you will get some advice from us. So just so you know, the senior recruiters here at the City of Portland are here to help you and to advocate for you. So please feel free to ask for help and to ask any questions that you might have. And beyond that, I just hope that each of you have a beautiful rest of your day.
Well,
Thank you
is there
so much.
another opportunity with the hiring manager for another Zoom or not?
I don't think so because we are right at the tail end.
Okay.
Thank you very much for all your advice. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Have a great rest of your day. Bye.
Right?